My name's Jesse, I'm an alcoholic.
Hey, Jesse.
I've had an experience with the steps as they're laid out in the Big Book, with the Big Book Step Study sponsor, plenty of Big Book Step Study meetings, people like you, and a God who's full of grace and second chances and 730 second chances. I've made all the amends that I'm physically able to make at this time, and remain willing and able to make the remainder of my amends on my list when those people are placed into my life, or if there's another way to make those amends with the sponsorship's guidance. And I practice all the steps to the best of my willingness every day. Thank you, Christine, for letting me share and speak up here. It's always an honor and a privilege to share at any meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. And as I was thinking of this step, specifically the first half of it, having had a spiritual experience, we try to carry this message to other alcoholics. And the reading focused a lot on sponsorship. But before I go there, I noticed that even in the announcements, your group talked about the first half of Step 12 with the Washburn commitment. I myself, my experience is I never went to an AA meeting before I went to treatment. And my first introduction to AA was on a commitment. So those are pretty important, if you ask me. Yes, you might get people who are sleeping in the back. I was one of those people at one point. You might get people that are sitting in the front on the edge of their seat, waiting on every word. I was one of those people at one point as well, too. And you get a whole mixed bag, right? But I've never gone to a commitment and left and said, that was a waste of my time. I wish I didn't go. You know, the meeting before the meeting, the fellowship. I love food, so I try to wrap around, going out to eat either before or after, going to the meeting, and then the meeting after the meeting. And I was recently at a treatment center, and we were having our meeting after the meeting, and this just came to me. One of the staff from the treatment center saw us outside and came out, and we started talking, and turns out she's new to the area, she's one of us, she was looking for a sponsor, and wouldn't you know, there's a woman in our group. They exchanged numbers, and I don't know if anything became of it, but what better place to talk about 12-step work than at a treatment center with people getting well, regardless if they're there for treatment or they're there to help people get treatment, right? I've had a lot of experience with reading this book with other men. I should back up and say I've had the pleasure and honor of 4 men to call sponsor in the last 16 years, one of whom is sitting in this room today. And I would not be here without the guidance of all 4 of those men. And just the privilege it is. I was driving over here today and thinking the countless hours people have poured into my life for no other reason other than because they wanted to see me succeed, right? And I just wouldn't be the person I am today without all of you. Whether I met you one time at a meeting, I met you today for the first time, I've known you for years, you're my sponsor, you're my sponsee, you're a friend. The fellowship is amazing. And, I never know the ripple effect that's going to have, so I'm constantly on the outlook to help, to be part of the solution. Because, to be honest, I have a healthy fear of the alternative. I know this works for me. My experience is I was sitting in a treatment center not too far from here, walked up to some guy, stared him straight in his shoelaces and asked him to sponsor me. And we cracked open this book and did what it said. And I went through the work while I was in treatment. And then here's the crazy part, folks. Some of you guys know this story. He said, all right, now it's your turn to do this with others. And I said, what do you want me to do? Walk down the hall and knock on someone's door and say, you want me to sponsor you? I'm still in treatment. And he gave me a sarcastic answer I won't repeat from the podium. And I don't even know how it really happened, but the fact is, before I left that treatment center as a client, I was reading this book with another man. And from that day to now, to this week, I continue to read this book with other men because, again, if it's not broke, don't fix it. Some life-altering stories have come out of there. I'm reminded as we're reading here of both our co-founders and what they talked about it. And in Dr. Bob's story, he talks about, I spend a great deal of time passing on what I learned to others who want it and need it badly. I do it for 4 reasons. A sense of duty. It is a pleasure, because in doing so, I am paying my debt to the man who took time to pass it on to me. And the 4th, because every time I do it, I take out a little more insurance for myself against a possible slip. The reality is, folks, I know I'm probably not the only one in here that has a brain that lies to me. I woke up early this morning. I did what I had to do to get a little physical exercise and sweat and move. I hung out with some awesome people that I have the privilege of calling family. I knew I was coming here today. I knew I was going to see all of you smiling faces. And I get here and I go in the bathroom, and my first honest thought was, ooh, there's a lot of shiny copper in here that's expensive. Right? And I wish I was lying for comedy purposes, but that's just the kind of chaos that goes through my brain. And I can't help it at times. What I can help, though, and thank God I don't get in trouble for my thoughts, I get in trouble for the actions. I can help directing, praying and directing my thoughts to helping other people, right? I've had the privilege of sponsoring many men over the last 16 years. Some who have come in my life for a season, some who have come in my life for longer. One man is a friend. A lot of them are friends today, but this guy's kind of my favorite. I know we shouldn't have favorites, but he's the godfather of my son, and he's a real close friend today. And he was a guy I met at a meeting here in Worcester, and he just asked for some help, and I said yes. And I didn't think 10 years later he would be, he's like an uncle to my kids, right? I didn't see that happen. And then there's other people who God puts in my life, because I truly believe that I can learn from anybody. Sometimes I can learn the line in the book that love and tolerance of others is our code. Some of you know in this room that I happen to be a pretty big Boston sports fan. And I kind of like that one guy, Tom something. He threw the ball really good. And his last game ever, he didn't play for this team, but I had it all set up, man. I had like a whole spread. It was just me, by the way. I had a whole spread, steak, and shrimp. I got it on the TV, and wouldn't you know, my phone rings, and I pick it up, and it's a guy I sponsored years ago that went out to do a little more R&D, and he's coming back, and he just decided to pick this time, Tom Brady's last game, to tell me how bad of a sponsor I was 6 years ago. And I talked to that man for the whole first half while I'm watching the game, while my food's getting cold, because I can't talk and eat at the same time. And the reason I bring that up is he eventually asked me to sponsor him again. And we went back through the work. And I told him that story, and we got to not only laugh at it, but we got to reflect on it, right? And he got to own some stuff. And I also, leaned heavily on my sponsor, because let's face it, we're all human, and we can only take so much. And that really sucked hearing that come from him. But I realized there was a reason why. There was a place for that, right? And our co-founder Bill talks about it at the end of his story, where he says, "An alcoholic in his cups is an unlovely creature. Our struggles with them are variously strenuous, comic, and tragic." And although I just told you that my experience is such that I have dry mouth. My experience is such that my first introduction to Alcoholics Anonymous was in a treatment center. That's true. However, that's not the first time that somebody attempted to carry this message. There were plenty of people before then that attempted to carry this message, and I was the person who told them what a bad job they did. I think of the countless people, both professional and personal, that tried to talk to me about my drinking or my other substances or my behaviors, and I just wasn't ready, man. I just wasn't ready. So today, when someone's not ready, as it talked about in here, I think the reading we read is very perfectly crafted, because it's not about beating someone over the head with the big book. I used to think it was. Like a lot of us, when we find the solution and our eyes are open, and it's like, whoa, this is awesome. everybody needs to know about this, right? And maybe sometimes that helps, but in my experience, more often than not, it turns people away, because I don't want to be overzealous or become some type of missionary or something for AA. AA's been around long before I came here, and hopefully, God willing, it looks like it's going to be around long after I'm gone. AA doesn't need me to be their spokesperson. I need AA way more than it needs me, right? So when someone's placed in my life and, we talk about this work, it's a very simple, practical approach that I know a lot of us in here share. It's usually a conversation or meeting, and then we go out to coffee, or he comes over to my house, or, I go to their place, and we have a conversation to qualify. Are you the real deal alcoholic, right? Or what are you willing to do, right? And depending on the outcome of that conversation, we start reading the book. And I start at the beginning, and when it gives us an instruction, we do the instruction together. And I know I'm not the only one in this room that's had plenty of people that have been all on board for a few days, weeks, months. And then we get to bring a notebook and a pen. I call that exit 4. Because for a lot of us, including myself, even though I told you I had 4 sponsors, one sitting in this room hearing me, that gently nudged me along the way. Because I get complacent. I get comfortable. I don't want to do work. That's work. I want to coast, man. I want to just, right? Get the most benefit for the least amount of work. That's my mindset even still today sometimes. So to guard against that, I've had sponsors, I've had men in this program that didn't beat me over the head with the book and say, you got to do it or else you're fired. They said, hey, what's the problem? What's blocking you from getting on the other side of this work? And that's the same approach I take with these guys. And some of them, it's a successful approach and we get through the work. And others, they go off to wherever, and I remain willing and ready if they do come back to work with them. Because again, no one's ever given up on me in Alcoholics Anonymous, and I won't give up on anybody. I've had some really amazing experiences with sponsorship. Thank you. Most recently, I got to go on, it is the best vacation I ever got to go on a cruise with my family. And they have meetings on the cruise ship. And I got to go to meetings with people from all over the world. And I stay in touch with a few of those people. And one of those men, today, for the last 2 months, we've been doing this work on Zoom across states. And just this past week, we were reflecting, we were reading There's a Solution and talking about how, where people who usually would not mix. He was in a profession that carried a badge, and I had a huge authority problem against. And I got paroled to Spectrum to this, right? And the real funny irony of the situation is now we're able to have these open and honest conversations. And I think he has a bigger authority problem than I do at this point. And that's just God showing off, folks, right? Because I came in here, like a lot of us, broken, hurt, full of fear, shame, guilt, remorse, and God showed up and said, hey, broken sticks can draw straight lines too. Let's do this. And from that day to now, when it's carrying this message, I think the words are very intentional, because it says carry this message, but the first part of it is having had a spiritual experience, right? Past tense, right? So I'm carrying this message, but I'm also talking about these spiritual principles. And it said in the reading today, we have no monopoly on God. There's no one-size-fits-all cookie-cutter approach for each one of us. There's however many of us in this room right now, and there's that many conceptions of a higher power probably. Maybe we share some similarities, but if we don't, and it works for you, awesome, right? It's a personal choice, it's a personal approach. Again, no one beat me over the head with the big book and said, you have to believe the way I believe, or else. Right? And that goes back all the way to the beginning when, Ebby came specifically to beat Bill over the head with the big book before it was written and say, you have to believe in what I believe in. And then as I read my book, I truly believe God's divine intervention showed up, and Ebby called an audible and said, you know what? Believe in whatever you want to believe. Right? And here we are today, right? The right people, the right place, the right time, the right situation, the right information. It's amazing. I want to be careful to not be that zealot or that, overselling this that I said that I guard against, but there's no other way of describing it for me. I wouldn't be here without God's divine intervention. Thank God I don't get what I deserve, because I'd be dead or still in jail. But yet I get to spend a beautiful Saturday morning with a lot of you that I consider friends today. That just, it's amazing. I really don't have any other words to describe it other than that. Because we were reading We Agnostics last night in my home group, where we read the book and we discuss. And we were talking about how on the surface it doesn't make sense. You come in here broken, just beat down, not sure if you even want to continue on life anymore. And you meet people who were in the same situation, and they read this book and got a connection with a higher power, and now they're like living this completely different life. How do you get from point A to point B? And a big piece of it is what we read today with the 12th step. Being willing, toward the end of it, I only got a couple minutes left. I probably won't find it in time. But thank you, Christine. She said 3. She's keeping me on task today. It doesn't sound like, it doesn't sound amazing on page 97, where it says you have to act the Good Samaritan every day if need be. There may be many loss of night's sleep, great interference with your pleasures. I just told you one small minor inconvenience when I was watching a football game, right? There's dozens more of those where my plan was to do X, Y, and Z. God's plan was to be of service, right? But just like when I leave a commitment, I never click off Zoom with the guy I'm reading the book with right now, or leave someone's house, or they leave my house reading face to face, and say, wow, that was a waste of time. It kind of sucked. If anything, it right sizes me. It puts me, because I'm with me all day. I told you one of my just insane thoughts that float through my brain. But I'm with me all day, and unguarded, unchecked. I can make it sound pretty, like a pity party for one up there. And woe is me and all my problems, and I'm just trying to be a good dude, and this is hard life, right? I got stuff going on right now that, I got to guard again. I got a conversation later today with someone I'm not looking forward to, because it's a difficult, hard conversation. But guess what? We all have difficult, hard things going on. And yet we get to get through them one day at a time with the help collectively in this room, with the spiritual principles, with the higher power. And any time that I don't do it for this reason, it's not a transaction relationship. But I know that any time that I give of my time, or I give someone a ride to a meeting, or I pick up a phone call with someone that just wants to talk, that my needs get met. It's not magic, it's not voodoo, I don't do it for that reason. But again, being right-sized, I'm in a better space mentally. I have a mental clarity where if I don't do that and I just focus on what I want to focus on selfishly, self-centeredly, it doesn't work out so well. And then I have to go and, I make more damage and have to make more amends. And I don't want to make any more amends today, right? I want to get to the point where, I can think before I act. And thank God most of the time today I can, because of this book, you people, and God. Thank you. Okay.